What's up? What's up, y'all? Happy hump day. Happy hump day. I hope you guys are having a great day. I hope everyone is well. I hope everyone has had a great day. So listen, we're just going to jump right into it because baby, y'all probably about to get a double header. I think we're going to go over on the other channel around 8:30, 8:30-ish and talk about Fantasia a little bit more because baby Fantasia responded to her daddy and it looks like her husband responded to her daddy. So we got some stuff to talk about. Okay. With that being said, we are here to talk about the documentary on Netflix that is now, actually right now, it is trending #1 on Netflix, America's Next Top Model. Inside, I should say, America's Next Top Model. So let me say this. I want to start off by, first of all, I'm going to just, listen, y'all know when we do these documentaries, and it's 3 parts, and I'm going to do all 3 parts at the same time. So part 1 is sort of like establishing who Tyra Banks is, establishing what America's Top Model was, how it came to be, right? And the success of it. Part 2 was like America's Next Top Model during its heyday, you know, all the things. And then it was sort of the downfall. Part 3 was sort of like the downfall. They did have some former contestants on there. I think it's interesting how many former contestants weren't on there. In a 3-part documentary, a show that lasted for 24 cycles, I think. The fact that we literally only saw about 5 or 6 former contestants is very telling for me. It's very telling, especially since oh, your sister's name is Tyra, right? Especially since Tyra participated, Kevin Mock, he participated. So it's kind of like whether you had something good to say or something bad to say, it's just surprising to me that there weren't more people that participated. I do know that they're doing another version of this on E, where it's going to be a lot more of an expose. And so I know that Janice Dickinson is participating in that one. And I know some of the other former models who really want to get raw and down and dirty are participating in that. But I just thought it was interesting that we just didn't see more people participate. But with that being said, let me say this. I started off with this documentary. Y'all know what I said a few weeks ago, where I said, you know, we have to be understanding and knowing that this is a different Takara said that the documentary didn't reach out to her. See, I find that interesting. I feel like the documentary should have reached out to every single former contestant. Let them say no. Especially the ones that are more memorable. Takara is very much a memorable former model, former contestant, you know? So, hey, mans, what's up, boo? They weren't getting paid on the Netflix, and most of them couldn't take off. Anyway, I'm trying to be serious, ma'ams. So, I feel like I'm always leery when I look at documentaries and I see so many people who were a part of it not included for whatever the reason, whether they didn't reach out or they didn't want to participate. I find that to be interesting. When I first went into this, I told you guys a couple of weeks ago that my thought process was, well, I'm going to keep an open mind. I know that when we look back on things with a 2026 vision, a 2026 lens, it's really easy to condemn things that we know we would never see today. We know we would never. I understand that, ma'am. I understand what you're saying. That we know wouldn't necessarily. We know they wouldn't necessarily be allowed to happen today, right? But the flip side of that is, after watching the documentary, I have a different point of view. I'm not going to give that much grace. The grace that I was going to give, I'm not. I'm just not. It's not there. After watching all 3 parts, it's not there. I also find it very interesting that it started off talking about America's Next Top Model's resurgence happened during the pandemic and how people were binging shows and a lot of people discovered or rediscovered America's Next Top Model. With that being said, it made me realize, because I knew that my boy Oliver Twixt was not included in this documentary. I do not understand why. I don't know what the politics were behind it. I don't know who didn't reach out or whatever. But what I will say is I find it very disrespectful that he was not included, nor any clips from his series was included, because if you know, he was very instrumental, or his YouTube channel was very instrumental in that resurgence. He went back and he started doing the Where Are They Now interviews. And one interview led to another interview, led to another interview, led to another interview, led to another interview. And he has interviewed a whole lot of the former contestants. Some said some really great things. Some said some not so great things. But a lot of his interviews went viral. The clips went viral. And even to the point where he actually ended up having a conversation with Tyra. He never interviewed Tyra, but they actually, so I just found it interesting that he wasn't part of making the actual show. I understand he wasn't part of making the actual show, but my point is, when they started talking about the resurgence of the show during the pandemic, and they showed other content creators. Did you see how many TikTokers they showed, how many YouTubers they showed that did content on America's Next Top Model? They could have included him. He was such a major part. Like, go back and look at his interviews and look at the numbers for those interviews, the views on those interviews. He had, in my opinion, he was a big part of the content, not the show, obviously, but the content about it. Now, again, I haven't talked to Oliver. I don't know why he wasn't included. I don't know if they reached out and he said no. I don't know. But I do feel like, he should have been included. Thank you, Jay. Thank you, Boo. I just feel like he should have been included. And that's just my personal opinion. When I look back on it, and I remember the Mary Cosby documentary where they used a lot of TikTokers and YouTubers, they didn't ask their permission. So I mean, but it was funny. It was a choice. He is interviewing Angela tonight. He said he wasn't invited. That's what I'm saying. That's the point I'm making. I don't know why. I don't know why he wasn't invited. I don't know why he wasn't included. But anyway, with that being said, I just think that was a little, in my opinion, I think that was a little disrespectful. I feel like he just did a lot to cover that. Yeah, I know he's discussed it. I'm saying I just haven't talked to him. But with that being said, let's get into the documentary. Let's get into it. So, like I said, part 1 talks about, first of all, the beginning of it talks about Tyra Banks and who she is. And for those of us that know Tyra Banks and remember Tyra Banks, we knew a lot of that. But for people who like, younger people who weren't around during the Victoria's Secrets and the Sports Illustrated days and the realm of top models, that whole heyday of top models, a lot of people don't remember the impact that these women had on pop culture during that time. And certainly maybe a lot of people only know Tyra Banks from America's Next Top Model. So I do think it was important for them to show us that information and let us know, look, she was very influential in modeling at that time. And also that she was not a traditional model. She was a lot more curvier. Her looks were a little more, ethnic. And she did have a harder time breaking barriers and breaking through the door. I think all of that was interesting. I think that was important. Then she talks about how she had the idea to do a model reality show. She wanted to sort of meld the real world with American Idol. And again, for people who don't remember the heyday, American Idol is still around, but it's certainly not the heyday of what it was now, right? And of course, same thing with the real world. If you weren't, if you're not old enough to remember the heyday of the real world, again. So she went to Kevin Mock, who is, did the making of the band, like the original making of the band when it was a white band. Diddy did it and turned it into a, R&B urban thing. But when they created, I believe it was Old Town, he created. And he did another, I think Survivor. He's done a lot of other reality TV. So she sat down with him and he told her, he said, listen, this is a great concept, but you're going to have to conceptualize this. If you're going to put this together, you're going to have to create a whole series of it where, they're going to have challenges every week and then who can master the challenge the best and then get eliminated until you have one man standing. That's, and that's sort of the genre of it. American Idol, we voted. The thing about American Idol was they would perform, the judges would critique, but ultimately America voted to see who stayed and who went home. And again, if you remember the heyday of American Idol, I remember calling. Baby, I voted so many times for Fantasia and Jennifer Hudson and Ruben Studdard, and I'm sure all the other Black people. I don't know. I can't remember the rest of them now. But I remember voting and voting and voting and voting. I remember I couldn't wait to see from week to week what they were going to sing, what the genre of the week was going to be, how they were going to switch the song up. And it was always hard to see somebody go home, So they said, great, this is a great concept. Let's put this crew together. So she reached out to Jay Manuel, who was her makeup artist at the time, and they brought in Miss J, who of course was very well known in the modeling world as a teaching models how to walk, how to do a runway, how to do the catwalk. And they put this concept together. So they went to all the top studios. They went to ABC. They went to NBC. They went to CBS. They all said no. Again, you have to remember this was 30 years ago, 25 years ago, 30 years ago, however many years ago it was. There wasn't all of these other options outside of the three top networks. You had Fox, and then UPN was a very, very new network. That we didn't have the Bravos of the world. We didn't have the streaming options of the world that we have today. Now, if you want to create a show, there are a million other options that we can use now. But back then, you really had about 5 options, and after that, you were pretty much out. So they went to I'm gonna just put y'all comments up here because y'all are talking in the chat. I don't want to ignore y'all, but I don't want to get sidetracked either. They went to UPN, which again was a very new network. It was on CW. What was on CW? It was on UPN first. UPN then became CW. It was on UPN first. So UPN was a new network, was led by a woman, and basically her attitude was, look, I can't do, we don't have nothing to lose. We have, as a matter of fact, let me do it this way. We don't have anything to lose. Like, it's a new show. I mean, it's a new network. We don't have a whole lot of content. And listen, why the hell not? Also, remember too, reality TV wasn't seen the way it's seen today. Nowadays, reality TV has this, people love reality TV, and people take reality TV and become huge stars. They monetize their content. They know how to parlay these things, and they can extend 15 minutes into 15 years. It wasn't like that back then. And so the first year they did it, they had a very limited budget. They filmed the whole show in a hotel. They literally The ladies stayed in one part of the hotel and they filmed in another part of the hotel. And there it is, right? So they filmed the show with 10, people taking a chance on the show because it didn't have a name. It didn't have a reputation. They had Shannon from the first season. They had Ebony from the first season. Now, I don't mean no harm. And listen, I don't want to make this about Miss Shannon. But the first thing out of Miss Shannon's mouth was about how she been saved since she was 10 years old and how religious she was. And y'all know all I heard when I was like, okay, I'm going to just put you over there. We ain't going to focus on that right now. We're going to put you over there. But, I was side-eyeing Miss Shannon, right? I was side-eyeing her. But we're going to put Shannon over there because that ain't what this about today. Ebony, who I do remember Ebony. I remember that bald head. I remember just how beautiful she was, how popping her skin was, all of that. I remember all of that. I do not remember everybody, but those two I did remember. And they talked about Isabella. I didn't remember Isabella as much, but they had her there too. So they went through the experience of that first season. And what Tyra said was this show was going to be her get back to the industry. She was going to create a show that was going to teach women how to be successful in the modeling world that doesn't always want people that look like them. They're not the typical model. And basically, I'm going to break the mold. I'm going to shatter the ceiling. This show is going to push the outside of the box models into the industry. That is what this show is going to be. And I'm going to be honest and say I 100% believe that was her intention. I do. Oh, Adrian, who won, I think Adrian won the first season or the second season. I 100% believe that was her intention. I believe it. But I also believe that with the success of the show, a lot of that got washed away really quickly. Now, she talked about how they basically only let her cast one Black woman in the first season and how she had to fight to get a Latina woman. Because at the time, Les Moonves, Julie Chen from Big Brother, her husband, was the head of CBS and UPN was under CBS. And basically he was like, yeah, no, we don't, yeah, we let y'all have one color. You can't have two. And she said that they had to get rid of the first Latina woman and then they had to but they brought in Isabella. And what I heard, y'all might not have heard what I heard, but what I heard was, okay, she did win the first season, thanks, was that Isabella was white presenting enough for Les Moonves to be okay with it. So what that makes me feel like is that the first Latina was more ethnic looking than Isabella. That's what I heard. Because if you had a problem with a Latina and they were still able to get a Latina in, what I heard was she was more acceptable. So the first Latina was probably more ethnic looking, maybe a little more Afro-Latina, So Tyra said that, and let me say this too about myself. I got to check myself because as I was watching this documentary, a lot of these things I remember happening, but my thought, you just baby, this shirt is so old, and I stopped wearing it because I was like, is it in bad taste? But my shirt says I beat anorexia because y'all know I'm fat. Okay. I'm just gonna. So I feel like as I was watching back, like I said, I remember a lot of these scenes, but of course my vision is different now than it was 30 years ago when I was watching it in real. Because I used to love America's Next Top Model. You hear me? This was my show. This was must-see TV. I would put it in my DVR. I would watch it. Me and my friends talked about it. Like, it was this in Project Runway. This was our shit, you know? And so when I remember the makeover show used to be my favorite episode. I loved seeing how women went from this to this. I loved seeing that. But what I will say is, even in that moment, even in that lens of 2000, there were some makeovers that I thought went too far. There was some makeovers that I had an issue with, and we'll get to that. But that first season, Ebony talked about them shaving her bald. Now, I'm going to be honest. I didn't have a problem with them shaving her bald because for that time, a bald woman was such a bold move. I honestly think it would have taken away from her uniqueness for them to put hair on her. That's my opinion. And that's how I felt then, and that's how I feel now. Them just, taking that little top part off, shaving it, and just making her straight bald. Like, when I see her, I think of Black Panther. Like, she had that look. She absolutely looks like she could be one of the royal guard, right? And that was such a unique look in that time period. I honestly think it would have lessened the boldness of her look to give her hair. However, my problem in listening to Ebony tell her story, my problem is that they did not have any Black beauticians on set that knew how to, or let me not just say Black beauticians, people who are trained to do African American hair. Because you can be white and have the right training or whatever. That's my issue. I didn't care that they shaved her head. I thought that was a great idea. I had a problem with the fact that you had 3 women standing over this one woman who didn't know how to cut her fucking hair. That's the problem I had. She said she ended up with bald spots because they used the wrong clipper. How do you not know how to shave somebody's head? Black, white, or indifferent? That's the part I had a problem with. Because again, I look at you, Tyra, and this was season 1 when y'all didn't even have a budget. But as a Black woman in the modeling industry, you knew what it was like to have a makeup artist that didn't know how to do your makeup correctly. You knew what it was like to have a hairstylist that didn't know what to do with your hair. You knew what that feeling was. So in my opinion, you should have went out of your way. Even y'all were filming it in New York. You could have went down the street and found a Black barber to cut that woman's hair. Like, a Black barber comes a dime a dozen. You could have went anywhere and got a Black barber to do her hair. And she was the only Black woman there, which means to me, that should have been all the more why you were zoomed in on that. To say, well, wait a minute, we're going to shave Ebony bald. We're going to make her just straight bald. But I think we need to and I wouldn't have even been mad if they filmed it, her going to get a Black barber. Make it a moment. Y'all, we got to go down to Harlem. I know that's not the only place Black people are in New York. Just walk with me. We got to go down to Harlem and get us a Black barber. You see, like that. So that I had a problem with. Okay. She didn't want to shave Ebony's head. Well, listen, I can't remember all the ins and outs that happened, Harold. I didn't go back and rewatch the actual episodes. I'm just talking about the documentary. I don't remember what she wanted to do, child. I don't know. But I honestly felt like in that moment, it just would have cheapened her look. But right, they definitely should have brought a barber in. So then Ebony talked about how basically they outed her on national television. Now, I'm going to say I feel 2 ways about that. I don't feel like they outed you because you literally had a whole girlfriend that you brought on the show and filmed on the show. So I don't feel like they outed you. I do feel like they caught you off guard by using that as part of your story because you put it on your paperwork that you were a gay woman. You had a whole girlfriend that you brought on the show and you didn't have a problem showing us that relationship. So I don't feel like they outed you. That part I didn't necessarily agree with. Now, again, maybe you weren't expecting them to just come right out and be like, so you're a gay woman, right? I mean, but you put it on your paperwork. So I feel like at some point you had to kind of know that it was going to come up, but okay. Thank you for the super chat. Says, quiet as it is, only the real strong us made this opportunity pop. Eva, Yaya, Kenya, Danielle, to name a few. She still don't fool with them to this day because they made something from nothing. Ooh, thank you for the super chat, Chanel. Thank you, boo. I agree. I do think that, and I'm going to get to that too, because there's a lot that I can put on Tyra Banks. A lot that I can put on Tyra Banks. But, you know, we'll get to that. Let me look at my notes, child. I took a few notes. After a while, I stopped taking notes. So sorry about that. But I did take a few notes. From part one. JJ. Okay. So they brought in Janice Dickinson, and I honestly feel like from the beginning they brought in Janice Dickinson to do exactly what she did. Janice and Tyra seemed to just not get along from the beginning, but clearly she was brought in to do exactly what she did, which was to be the opposite of what Tyra was trying to be. Tyra wanted to play good cop to her bad cop, but Janice was saying the things that Tyra wanted to say that eventually Tyra did say, but Janice was saying the things that Tyra wanted to say. But like those early arguments where Janice would say she's too fat, and Tyra would say, oh my gosh, Janice, she only weighs 130 pounds. Like it was that good cop, bad cop thing for her to be the good cop to Janice's bad cop. But then as the show continued to evolve, she became the bad cop, you know? And I feel like the more she started to become the bad cop, then Janice got more and more extra to be the bad cop. Janice Dickinson definitely first of all, I just think she's a horrible person. That's just on GP. That don't even have nothing to do with the show. That's just in general. I just think she's a horrible person. But she definitely came from that era of eating disorders were the norm. That's just what you did. Don't cry about it. It is what it is, you know. That's just, you know, that was the thing. Giselle said that there was this comment that was made about her ass, that where Tyra made a comment as she was walking away, and she said something about her ass being so big. And I call her Isabel. I meant Giselle. Her name was Giselle, not Isabel. Maybe I just didn't want to think of Giselle, child. But this is what I'm going to say, though. And I'm going to be honest. I'm going to be honest. Here's where I have to kind of... Here's where I kind of have to have two sides to this. You guys, even though Tyra said she wanted it to be different and she wanted to give a different view, you have to also understand that you are going on a show where you want to be a model and you're going to be judged. They're going to talk about your body. They're going to talk about your look. They're going to talk about your hair, your nails, your feet, your walk, your talk. Everything is going to be critiqued. If you knew anything about modeling and you knew anything about the modeling industry, even if Tyra had been successful in creating this anti-establishment modeling show, they still were going to have to critique you. They still were going to talk. So I didn't really feel when she was like, and I held on to that for so many years. And I'm like, girl, they said you had a fat ass. Maybe I'm being maybe I'm not having a lot of sympathy. Sorry, not sorry. But I felt like in comparison to some other things, girl, they said you had a fat ass. But it affected her, and I can't take nothing away from it. It affected her, and that's her story, right? So then we sort of go into season 2, and this was probably the story that hit me the hardest, because again, I remember this season. I remember Shandi. I remember the story. I remember the storyline. And as a mature adult, I see it so differently now. I remember our friends talking about that scene with Shandi when they were in Milan. I remember us, and we didn't call her a whore. We didn't go that far. But I remember us having that conversation. And as an adult, again, I was an adult then, but as a mature adult, oh my gosh, I see it so differently now. So Shandi was the girl next door working at the mall, the Walgreens. She was a sweetheart, little thin thing. I remember her from that season. She was a front runner to win. She did really, really, really well. She went to Milan. I think this was the first. Was this the first season that they went overseas? I think it was. I don't remember, but I think so, because the first season they did go-sees around New York. And so in Milan they did the go-sees. And what Shandi was saying was, they had and again, I remember this. I remember when they had the guys driving them around the city so that they could get where they were going and they could navigate the city faster. And so she said that later on that night, me too, Mims. Me too. I wanted Shandi to win. I loved her. So later on that night, they said, hey, let's invite the guys over that, gave us rides around, and let's have a little house party. Now, this is what I'm going to say. The first thing I thought of when I heard that was, how did they know how to find them guys? How did they just happen to have all of those guys' phone numbers and contact to get them to come to their loft to party? But okay, we're going to put that over to the side. The ladies got drunk. Shandi got drunk. She said she was drunk off her ass. So for me, here's where, and I'm going to say this. I'm not going to just blame production. You know why I'm not going to just blame production? I'm going to put the biggest blame on production. Yes. But you know who else I'm going to blame in that situation? The other women. I'm going to blame the other women. Because let me tell y'all something. As drunk as she was, she said that she had drank like 2 bottles of wine by herself. As drunk as she was, and y'all knew that girl had a whole boyfriend. Y'all knew she was in love with that man. I can't remember his name now, but y'all knew she was Matt or something. Y'all knew she was in love with that boy. That was her man, her man, her man. Ain't no way in hell y'all should have let her go into the shower with that boy. Y'all should have been like, nah, we got it. We got her. Because she's drunk. And I know that the other ladies were drunk too. I get it. But somebody in that house wasn't as drunk as her. That's my opinion. And I'm not even going to say that I'm not going to put all the blame on them. But what I am going to say is, I think there's some blame to be spread here. Because those women should have stopped it. In my opinion. And also, when production saw how drunk she was, they should have stopped it. And I understand, we were filming a documentary and the rule was, if you go in the bathroom by yourself, the cameras don't go. But if you go in the bathroom with somebody else, the cameras can come. And the girls knew the rules. Well, guess what? She was drunk. The rules don't apply. If you can't give consent, because at the end of the day, you can't give consent when you're drunk. So that was not a consensual situation, because the question you have to ask yourself is, would she have done that sober? Would she have made those same decisions if she were sober? And then Oliver compared himself to Shandi. Hold on. For what happened to him in King Kane on season 6 of Chasing Atlanta production. Okay. I can't tell that man how to feel about his story. And in my opinion, that is where production should have stepped in and said, we're shutting this down. Ladies, go to bed. This is over. This is a wrap. We're shutting this down. Fellas, it's time for y'all to go. It's time for y'all to go. And then they turned it into a whole storyline as if that was a consensual decision. And it wasn't. It wasn't. Production, and then Tyra gonna come in the next day and then create a conversation about cheating because she knew what happened. Production told her what went down. Just like when we see these reality shows now, we know when Andy know what done happened. We know when production, when the people know what went down. And again, when people say, and this is why, because the first thing somebody said in the chat a few minutes ago was she should sue, right? First thing somebody said was she should sue. But this goes back to what we say to you guys all the time when we hear these stories. Thank you, The Informed. I'm sorry for the super chat. I don't know if I said thank you. But this is what we say when people tell their story and the first thing somebody wants to say is, what took them so long? Why they just saying it now? Because sometimes in the moment, number one, you may not feel empowered to speak. And number two, you may not have felt like it was a violation in the moment. Because nobody around you said it was. None of the other models said it. Tyra didn't say it. Production didn't say it. They turned it into a whole storyline. And in her mind, I cheated on my boyfriend on national television. But you see now, for the people who always talk about, well, why didn't they say anything? Why didn't they say anything? Why didn't they say anything? But do you see now how easy it is for an event to happen and for you not to understand the gravity of it? You know you feel bad. You know you've been traumatized, but you don't have the words to connect to the event until later on when you realize, wait a minute, I was violated. I didn't just get drunk and cheat on my boyfriend. I was violated. Y'all see now how it's so when people say, why she ain't say nothing before? Why it take her 20 years? But as soon as I started talking about Shandi, somebody in the chat was like, she need to sue. Yeah, again, she felt guilty and she took the guilt on. She did. She absolutely did. So, and everyone is trying to give their logical opinion on the situation where she was drunk and couldn't make a conscious decision. Exactly. So for me, I feel like as a 50-year-old woman looking back on this, when I was 20-something watching it, I didn't see it through this lens. Yeah, in my mind, I was like, dang, she messed up her whole relationship because she got drunk. That's what I said in my 20s. Now, again, I didn't call her no slut. I didn't take it to that level. I was like, she made a mistake. Like, she messed up her whole life because she made a mistake. That was how I was thinking. But again, watching this back last night, I was like, no. It's deeper than she made a mistake and messed up her relationship. It's deeper than that. And then for them, and let's be clear, we know when I say we know, you know that you signed up for your life to be an open book. So you kind of know you signed up for that. But at the end of the day, it was a lot to process through. And it was hard to watch. And then, when she called, she said at first they wouldn't let her call her boyfriend. And then when they finally let her call her boyfriend, they said, we got to film it. We got to film it. And so, of course, that heartbreak, and I remember that. Yeah, I remember that scene. Oh, my gosh, baby, she was distraught. And she ultimately said, listen, at that point, I didn't care if I won anymore. Like, I wanted to win until that happened. And after that happened, I didn't care. And I just felt for her. I did. My problem is Tyra's lack of remorse. Oh, we're gonna get to that, but yeah, I'm with you on that one. Mem said those other girls weren't going to help because Shandi was their main competition. I don't disagree with that thought process. I just still think it's fucked up, but I don't disagree. I mean, it was a competition, and they were young as well. And let's be clear, they may not have had the words, just like we did. Watching it didn't have those words. You know what I'm saying? Production did, though. Tyra did. You know, after season 2, the show blows up. I mean, it is pop culture. The Simpsons, Family Guy, you know, they're doing skits on Saturday Night Live. It is crossed over into everything, right? And let's be real, back then, women were constantly told that if they dressed a certain way, they would take it if she was drunk. Right, exactly, Kim. And that's what I'm saying. We all felt like she just got drunk and made a bad decision. I mean, that's what the nicest people said. And then, of course, the not so nice people said worse. Oh, she's a hoe. She's this, she's that. But you're right. Nobody used those words then. I mean, not even, I mean, again, and I mean, this was before, obviously before social media was what it was today, but there were no think pieces on this. There was, not that I remember, I didn't hear anybody speaking up and saying, no, that's not what that was. That was RAPE. She couldn't give consent. Like, I don't, and again, it could have happened. It could have happened, but I don't remember it happening. Season 2 happens. Like I said, I mean, season 3 rolls around, and now it is, like I said, they're talking about it on The View and Saturday Night Live, and now this is where I think the show makes a hard left, right? Because now we have to constantly up the game. We have to outdo what we did before. We have to keep it new. We have to keep it fresh. We got to make it different. Like, how can we make the photo shoots even more exaggerated? How can we, you know, bring the women in even more so? Like, what are we going to do? And again, I remember this, and I remember being excited every week, going, what they going to do this week? What they going to do different this week? What they going to do different this week? You know, they talked about the meat one. And again, some things we got to put in perspective, y'all. So, like, when they had the women wear the meat, that was after Lady Gaga did the meat dress at the VMAs. So we got to put some stuff in perspective. They didn't just pull that shit out of their head and say, ooh, let's make the ladies wear raw meat. They got that because Lady Gaga had done it, right? So some stuff we got to put in perspective that they didn't just make it up. Here is where, again, in my opinion, the show starts, because now you're always chasing where you are. Season 2, season 3, that was like the height, you know, and now you're chasing that. You're chasing that, and you got to keep the ratings up, and you have to keep people, you know, on top. They talked about the homeless photo shoot. Now, I'm gonna be honest, I remember when they did that, and I was like, the fuck? I remember when they did the homeless photo shoot and how they had like real homeless people, unhoused, like as the backdrop. And I do remember at the time thinking, that is fucked up. How you gonna ask somebody that legitimately don't have nowhere to sleep to pose for a damn photo shoot? I was like, I know they not paying them. Like, I was like, huh? I do remember that photo shoot. And I felt like, I was like, okay, they doing. Now, it wasn't enough for me to stop watching, if I'm being honest, but I do remember thinking, huh? This was the season of, so the next thing they talk about is Danielle and the other young lady with the teeth. The white girl with the teeth. Here's where the makeovers go too far. And I said it then. And I remember me and my friends having conversations and debates about Danielle and that gap. Some of us were like, she ain't want it bad enough. What's the big deal? Some of us were like, but if she didn't want to do it, she shouldn't have had to do it. Danielle and the gap in her teeth. She didn't want to get her gap filled in. First, they sent them, her and the other lady, they sent them, well, we're going to get to the change in ethnicity. We're going to get there in a minute, Lauren. First, they sent those two girls to the dentist first, okay? You should have known then when they sent y'all to the dentist that it was going to be some bullshit. Here's where I think we go too far. I think that nothing should have been done to these women that could not have been undone. Meaning, I know a lot of women got mad about cutting their hair, but baby, your hair can grow back. And I don't want to get into the debate about, well, cutting a woman's hair is sacred and da-da-da-da-da. I'm not getting into that because in the modeling world, you're going to have to do things to your hair. They're going to put wigs on you every other day. You're going to have to put your hair in protective styles. Like, you might do one photo shoot in 5 different wigs. So that part never bothered me. The hair thing never bothered me because I was like, girl, you know what I mean? Doing the makeup differently to contour and give better cheekbones and all that, didn't care about none of that. I did care about the dental because in my mind I was like, first of all, I don't even know this person. Like, I'm real peculiar. I'm sorry, particular about somebody gonna do major dental surgery on me who does not know me. They literally just got sent a picture of my mouth. And now I'm gonna go to this. I don't even know who this dentist is. You telling me that he's a top dentist? I don't know he's a top dentist. And I'm getting ready to let him perform major dental surgery on me. And then you want me to do a photo shoot the next day? That girl had like 4 teeth pulled. And they said she was at the dentist until like 2 a.m. getting dental work. Nobody thought that was a bad idea. Nobody said, wait a minute. On second thought, this man said he got to pull 4 teeth out this girl's mouth. Maybe this isn't the best decision right now. And I know they thought, oh, well, we're just helping her out because, I mean, her teeth are jacked up and we're fixing them. But who in the hell thinks it's a good idea to have that level of major? Listen, if it took 6 hours to do, then that was too much to do in one day. I ain't never been to the dentist and been there till 2 a.m. And I've had my wisdom teeth pulled. I've had root canals. I ain't never had to stay till 2 a.m. to get nothing done to my teeth. And she's right. And they said, Joanne said they wouldn't let her call her parents. And I understand she was over 18, but she's still a child. They wouldn't let her call her parents and they wouldn't let her. And then she had to sign a separate waiver. That's when you should have really known. The regular waiver that I already signed ain't good enough. I got to sign a separate waiver. Tracy, it's not, I understand her teeth were bad, but my thing was y'all picked her when her teeth were bad. Y'all picked that girl with them jacked up teeth. I just think that major medical, that level of cosmetic, dental surgery, I just think, for me, I think that was too much. Now, again, they didn't play all of that. We didn't know that girl was there till, at least I don't remember. Again, that was years ago. I don't remember knowing she was there till 2 a.m. But I do remember her being in pain and her having to do a whole photo shoot the next day. Like, Most of us don't even get out of bed if we had that level of dental work. I know when I got my 2 wisdom teeth done, baby, all I could do was take my pain pills and roll over. She did a whole photo shoot. So Danielle refused to let them close in her gap. Tyra told her, either you're going to close your gap or you're going home. And so Danielle agreed to do it because what you going to do? Now, I have 2 ways of looking at that. I have two sides of that coin. Danielle, you could have said no and walked away. I mean, if Tyra said, listen, the people were telling me she's not going to work with that gap in her mouth. We can't do nothing with her. We can't give her work. You saw the one lady that she went and talked to, and the lady talked to her about her mouth. That's the first thing the lady said, was said something to her about the gap in her mouth. I think they picked them just so they could do these ridiculous makeovers. I don't know. I mean, I certainly, at this point, I can't say what they did or didn't talk about in the in the production room. Unfortunately, that's what the modeling world is. The critique everything about you, but that for a show is crazy. Couldn't they have given her fake teeth? That's what I'm saying. They could have given her some caps, something she could take off and put on and put off. That, if they had done that, I would have been cool with it. If they had said, listen, we're going to give you these caps temporarily, but we strongly recommend that if you do win this competition, you're going to have to get some dental work done. Cool. And again, y'all, this is all 2020 vision. We are looking back on this with 2020 vision, but they could have easily done that. They could have easily given her some caps to cover up them, pop them on and pop them off. And then you win the competition, you're going to have to get some major work done because this is what they want to see. But again, going back to doing something permanent for temporary, Lauren said that's BS. Lauren Hutton had a gap and she was a top model at her time. I understand that. But again, it's because one person was able to break through and do it didn't mean that it was going to become an accepted norm. That's why I just don't feel like they should have done anything permanent to these women. That's just my opinion. And I felt that way then. Again, the hair never bothered me. I know some of y'all in the chat are like, no, not my hair. But the hair never bothered me. It just didn't. And maybe because I've never been that way about my hair. I'll cut my hair, color my hair. I don't care. I've just never been that way about my hair. But again, I feel like hair is just something that can grow back. If they dye it, it can grow out. You could dye it back. If they cut it, especially at that age, if they cut it, it'll grow back. If they give you a perm, the perm will grow out. If they straighten it, you can curl it back up. Like, it just wasn't, those things weren't a big deal to me. If they add extensions, you can take the damn extensions out. Just wasn't a big deal to me. But something on that level, I just don't think they should have been able to do. But that's just my opinion. Lauren Hutton was told to fill in her gap. I'm looking at it from a cost-benefit analysis. You fix my teeth for a TV show. Dental work is not cheap. I hear you, Tracy, but I just don't feel like that. I just don't feel like they should have done it. But okay. Tyra contradicted herself. She cast models for their unique, different, unconventional features, only to turn around and try and force them to change their unique, unconventional features. I agree, because that's what I said about Takara. I have always, that Takara pissed me off. What they did with Takara pissed me off. You bring her in because she's a plus size model, but then you don't do anything for her plus size. She's a plus size model, but you never make sure that there are clothes that are going to fit her. And then you make it a her problem when there are no clothes that fit her. I'll never forget when Takara got sent home when she complained that there were no clothes that fit her. And the lady was like, you just don't understand how the modeling industry works. And then she got eliminated and they were like, they said that you were rude and da-da-da-da-da. No, she was asking for some clothes that fucking fit. You know I'm a size 10. You send me here and ain't nothing here besides 6. I can't wear it. But you brought me on this show knowing I was a size 10. That's not fair to her. She was never gonna, you didn't put her in a position to win. And Takara was kicking that ass. Takara was kicking their ass. You don't fit the clothes, you don't work. But the point is, going back to what the person just said, you said you wanted to bring outside of the box. So you bring outside of the box and then you try to put them in a box. You literally bring me on the show because I'm a size 10, but then you put me in a position where none of the clothes fit me, but I'm the bad guy when I complain that none of the clothes fit me. You brought me here as a size 10. And I understand when they get to the end, when they got to the end of the cycle, when they were going on go-sees, there's really not a lot you can do about the go-sees, right? But when you're controlling the photo shoot, you absolutely can make sure that there are clothes there that can fit all of your models. It's your photo shoot. Now, when they were going and actually trying to be a part of an actual runway show and they were going to real fashion houses, that's a different conversation. But this was literally still within the realm of the show. You gonna tell me that this is your photo shoot for your show and you don't make sure they're clothes that fit me? That's crazy as hell. That's dumb as shit to me. You set that woman up to fail. She wanted to jump. Well, I mean, and at the end of the day, we are still producing a show. So some of these things I can't be mad because it's still a reality show. It's still about drama. It's still about creating a moment. So yes, you're creating the moment with Takara not being able to fit the clothes. But I just felt, and again, at the end of the day, was Takara going to win? I don't know. The first plus size model that won, she said the same thing happened to her. Again, I just don't, I can't remember every single model from every single cycle. I just can't remember. Then I think cycle 4 is when they had the true crime, like the crime scene photo shoot. Again, I remember it. I don't remember having any feelings about it. If I'm being honest, I don't remember having any feelings about it. But the one model said that her mom had been shot and paralyzed, and that was something that production knew. And she said at first she felt like it was a coincidence. Whitney, yeah. She said at first she felt like it was a coincidence, but then she quickly realized, this, Dion, thank you. No, this wasn't a coincidence. Well, not quickly realized, but in hindsight, she realized, no, this wasn't a coincidence. They wanted a reaction out of me. Because her photo was that she had a shot to the head. And she said, I'm sure in hindsight, the reaction was supposed to be, I was supposed to have a reaction. I was supposed to break down. I was supposed to give them something. She was like, and I just didn't. I did the photo shoot and I didn't say anything. But in hindsight, that was what I was probably supposed to do. And I just wasn't going to give them that. That's a trick they do, Candace. Thank you, man, for the super chat. Tyra cut me because I refuse to cut my toenails. So, going back to Danielle for a second. And then after they went through the whole thing with Danielle and forcing her to close on her gap, a couple of cycles later, Tyra actually created a gap in another girl's mouth. So, again, was it really what was in the best interest of Danielle, or was it for the show? You know what I mean? I will say this. So the next photo shoot, the controversial photo shoot, was the trading ethnicities. I'm gonna be honest with y'all. Y'all can judge me. I'm gonna go on and tell y'all the truth. Y'all can judge me later, or you can judge me now. Shit, I ain't feel no kind of way about this when it happened. And I'm gonna tell you why I didn't feel no kind of way about it when it happened. Because they were not creating a caricature of Black people. So honestly, I didn't feel no kind of way about it. Now, obviously, I probably feel different. But had they done it and they exaggerated the lips and they bugged out the eyes and they used cork grease and turned it into a caricature, yeah. Yeah. But honestly, it did not bother me when I watched it in real time. It just didn't. Now, it was a moment people did complain about it. People talked about it. People did, people did do all those things. But I'm being real honest. In that real time, I didn't feel no kind of way about it. I'm going to be honest with you. You know what I was more offended by? I was more offended by them putting that Native American headdress on that woman than I was about them airbrushing them a different color. And I'm just going to be honest and tell you. Because I remember in that moment thinking, that is disrespectful. Now, why I didn't think it was disrespectful that they changed her whole skin color, I can't tell y'all. Y'all can judge me for it. That's fine. I love y'all. But I remember thinking, they're going to put that headdress on that woman. That is so disrespectful. But I did not feel like they were making fun of other ethnicities. Now, was it a good idea? No. And this was the first glimpse. And I know y'all are going to say the first one, but this was probably the first glimpse of when I saw Tyra and I started realizing, okay, Tyra, you're talking out of both sides of your neck right now. Because Tyra sat there and said, was it a good idea? No, it wasn't the best idea. I mean, of course, when we did it, I didn't think it was a bad idea. But then when people talked about it and I was like, oh my gosh, they're right. Oh my gosh. But girl, you did it again. So you didn't give a damn. You did it again. Right. I remember thinking they did a really good job with the makeup. Again, y'all, sorry. I just didn't see it that way then. And again, for me, it's more of making fun of, but whatever. Blackface is blackface. A minstrel show is another. Okay. I'm not arguing. I'm just telling y'all how I felt in the moment and where my mind was. Then we get to Kenya. And I'm going to be honest again, y'all. The Kenya story, we're going to get to the other part of Kenya's story. I'm talking about the weight, about them saying she was gaining weight. I'm going to be honest with y'all. I don't feel no kind of way about that storyline. Again, traumatizing to some people, maybe. But again, you are in a modeling competition. When they brought you on the competition, you weighed a certain weight. You were picking up weight as the show went on. And I understand you picking up weight. Maybe y'all, maybe you were stress eating. Maybe y'all, when y'all weren't filming, you were sitting around the apartment and you weren't exercising. Like, I understand it. But again, remember, when you're a model, picking up 5 pounds, it shows up on the camera. And if they hired you and you were 130 pounds and now you're 140 pounds, that makes a difference. So them making it a part of your storyline, I ain't feel no kind of way about it. I didn't feel no kind of way about it then, and I don't feel no kind of way about it now watching it. Now, traumatic to her, sure, it's her story, and she can tell her story, and I'm not going to tell that woman that she can't feel how she feel about it. That's her trauma. I can't tell you not to be traumatized by it. I can't tell you that. But I'm saying for me, I remember that, and I remember them telling you were gaining weight. And I remember that elephant photo shoot that she said she felt like they made the elephant photo shoot because of because she was gaining weight. Maybe they did. I don't know. You said them making it seem like she was eating more than she was messed up. Well, that to me, that takes it back to producing a show. If you're gonna make the fact that she's gaining weight part of her storyline, then yeah, we're gonna show you eating. Sorry, not sorry. I believe the Native American hairdress was not a costume. It was actually hairdressing for one of their spiritual ceremony celebrations. Right. But it is a costume when you're not using it in the way it was meant to be used. It is a costume. That's like saying I'm wearing a particular, that's like saying I'm gonna dress up like a priest, but I'm not. I don't want to be disrespectful to the Catholic Church. I'm just dressing up like a priest. It's from one of their, for the priest. I forget the it's like a stole, but they mean something. The colors are significant. They mean something. So just because you don't mean it to be disrespectful doesn't mean it's not disrespectful. You wearing a traditional headdress of a Native American tribe and you are not a part of that Native American tribe, it is disrespectful. And then it becomes a costume to you because you are not a part of that tribe. That is not yours. So again, did they mean for it to be that? I don't think they did, but it was. It wasn't the fact that she gained weight, but to put her in an elephant was making fun of her. Maybe it was. I mean, again, I'm only giving y'all my perspective. If that bothered y'all and offended y'all, I can't tell y'all not to be offended. But for me, I was like, she gained weight. If they wanted to make her elephant, it was her storyline. And I'm not saying that makes it okay, but I'm saying in the grand scheme of things, that didn't bother me. Now, I can't tell nobody else how to be. Again, it's her story. I can't tell her not to be traumatized by it. Then they talked about the unhealthy eating habits. I'm going to say this. This is where I'm going to come back to you, Tyra. And I'm going to say, if your goal was to change things in the industry and change things you knew were going on in the industry, you should have had those women, especially once you had the budget. Those women should have had to see a nutritionalist. Especially if y'all are going to critique their weight and you're going to speak on their weight and you're going to talk about their weight and everything is going to be about their weight. You should have made sure that those women were being healthy, that they weren't creating eating disorders or they didn't already have an eating disorder when they got there. You should have had a nutritionalist on site, in my opinion. Again, weight is a big deal in the modeling world. I'm not going to take away from that. As a big woman, I know that the modeling industry has never been catered towards me. We talked about this the other day. It has never been catered towards me. It has only been recently that I could walk into Lane Bryant, which is a store that the smallest size they have in there is a size 12, maybe a 10, I guess. I don't know. But those are the smallest sizes. And up until recently, the mannequins were a size 2. Now you can go into a Lane Bryant and you might see a size 20, a size 16. Now when you go on the website, you see women of all sizes modeling the clothes. But and I'm not even talking about a long time ago. Go back 5 years ago. You didn't see that. I remember going into Lane Bryant and the models were clothes that they didn't even sell in the store. They had to pin them in the back just so they would fit on the mannequin because the clothes were too big. So, and I used to work at Lane Bryant. So that's what I'm telling you what I know. So I get it that the modeling industry, and it still is in a lot of cases, is about size. I get that. But once again, I go back to what Tyra Banks said was her original concept of this show. And that was to break those barriers. So if you knew, being a model, being in those circles, knowing that those women had eating disorders and things of that nature, number one, yes, you should have made sure that those women were eating. Number two, they should have had to go see it. And even if you didn't have a nutritionist like visit every week, certainly when you saw certain things, y'all knew. Everybody on that set has been in the modeling world. Y'all know what to look for. Production, it's filming them. You know when those girls aren't eating. With like that scene where they showed that girl, all she was eating was pickles. That immediately, the same way they called your ass when Shandi slept with that boy in Milan, was assaulted by that boy in Milan, is the same way they should have called you and said, hey, we noticed that so-and-so ain't eating. We noticed that so-and-so is only eating pickles. We got it on camera. And when they asked her why she wasn't eating, she said because she was a fat ass. Red flag, red flag, red flag. When all those women were passing out, they showed the scenes of all the women passing out and having to go to the emergency room, being dehydrated and hadn't eaten and stuff. Red flag, red flag. And again, I'm not going to blame Tyra for every single thing, but what I am going to say is if you're saying you want to create a space that is going to break the walls of the modeling industry, she said this was my get back for how I was treated as a model and the things I had to go through. This was my get back. If this was your get back, then you protect those girls. And I'm sorry, not sorry. You protect those girls. I'm not saying that you don't produce your TV show. Absolutely, you produce your TV show. Have them do photo shoots suspended from wires. Have them do a photo shoot in a meat dress. Have them, I don't care. But at the end of the day, if your goal was to break the mold of what the modeling industry has become, then break the fucking mold. Well, here's the thing. Some of y'all are saying, well, all of them weren't going to be successful. There is no competition show where everybody was successful. No matter, we can look at American Idol. By the time we got to the top 10 of American Idol, all those people could sing. We go through the audition. Of course, people show up for the auditions and they can't sing. And some of them are just being silly. Some of them just want to go viral. Got it. We got it. But by the time you whittle that stick down and you get to the top, I'll say the top 15. All of them can sing. But all of them didn't be successful. All of them weren't successful. Not because they couldn't sing, just because everybody ain't going to be successful no matter how much talent you have. You can be the top dancer and you may not make it. You could be a top actress or actor and you may not make it. You could be a great football player and you may not make it. You could be a great basketball player and you may not make it. Talent doesn't always equal success. So a lot of these women were beautiful. A lot of these women took beautiful pictures. A lot of these women could walk the hell out of a runway. But at the end of the day, everybody ain't going to make it. So the fact that some of these women didn't make it, that doesn't bother me. Maybe it bothers other people. This show went on for 24 cycles. Hundreds of women and men by the end of it went through this process. All of them ain't going to make it, y'all. So I'm not going to judge it by that stick. I mean, y'all can. I'm not going to judge it by that stick. Because at the end of the day, everybody ain't going to make it no matter what arena you in. Everybody ain't going to make it. You can go to law school. Everybody ain't graduating. Medical school. Everybody ain't going to be a doctor. Everybody ain't going to make it. But Tyra knew they would be viewed as reality stars, not models. I don't think in the beginning she did. I honestly think that in the beginning, she thought that her Tyra Banks stamp of approval would be enough. I believe that. Remember, Tyra Banks was probably one of the most successful models in the world at that time. She was the fucking Tyra Banks. And I think that she thought her stamp of approval would be enough. Now, certainly by cycle 3, 4, 5, she knew. But in cycles 1 and 2, oh, I absolutely think she thought that if she said, hey, this girl won my competition, I put her through her paces, I trained her, she had the best photographers, Miss J. Alexander trained her on her runway walk, she's ready to hit Fashion Week. I think she thought it was enough. I do not think that in the beginning, she didn't think it was enough. Now, again, I think she quickly realized, well, fuck it. I'm producing a show. I'm not making models at this point. I'm producing a show. But in the beginning, I truly believe that she thought that would be enough. But that's my opinion. Victoria's Secret's $1 million bra Tyra could not. Yeah, we got to remember who Tyra Banks was at the beginning of this. A lot of people only know the Tyra Banks today that's been out of the, that hasn't been there for a moment. I mean, she made her return to the runway. She did the little cameo at the Victoria's Secret show a few years. What was that, last year? But Tyra Banks has been retired for a very long time. But when this show started, she was still here. She was still here. I mean, that's like Beyonce doing a talent search and saying, I'm going to train this person. I'm going to give them my choreographer. I'm going to give them my vocal coach. I'm going to give them the best producers. I'm going to put them in the best studios. I'm going to pay $1 million for a video, and I'm going to do a rollout. Why would anybody think that that's going to fail? She's fucking Beyonce. She's put her stamp of approval on this artist and said, not only am I saying that this person can sing, I'm saying that I've given them this, and that, and they're ready. Why would you think that person ain't going to be successful? And I really think that was the thought process in that moment. Now, again, by cycles 3, 4, she probably figured out this. But by that time, she was moving more into the reality side anyway. So she was easing on down the reality side of the road. You know what I mean? So let's talk a little bit more about Kenya's story. There was a photo shoot, and again, I remember this when they were in Africa, where the model was getting a little too touchy-feely. And let me tell you what pissed me off about this. She stopped the photo shoot and said, I don't feel comfortable right now. I mean, she literally stopped the photo shoot, and in front of the person that was making her feel uncomfortable, she said, I don't feel comfortable right now. He's touching me in a way that does not make me feel comfortable. And they basically told her, suck it up, Buttercup. We need to get the shot. So she did what she did. They choose the picture where the man is literally grabbing her legs. That's the picture that they choose. And then have the nerve to say, she don't look good in the picture. So she again tells them, well, in that moment, that model was being a little too touchy-feely for me, and I was uncomfortable, yada, yada, yada. Now, Nigel Barker, come to the front. And I used to love me some Nigel Barker. Ooh, that was a fine man. Ooh, that was a fine one. But come to the front, Nigel. What pissed me off in that moment was even in 2026, you know what you had the nerve to say, Nigel Barker? You know what you fixed them sexy lips to say, Nigel Barker? You said, okay, tap on the glass. Come here, Nigel. You know what you had the nerve to say? You said, well, she should have spoken up. She literally did twice. She stopped the photo shoot and then she told y'all again when y'all were critiquing the picture. She literally spoke up for herself twice. And then you turned around and said, well, unfortunately, that was just a reality in the modeling world that men were going to hit on women and men might be a little too touchy-feely. So again, it's okay. Because again, if we are trying to change the barriers and break down these barriers, she literally did speak up for herself. She literally in front of the person said, wait, I don't feel comfortable right now. This is making me uncomfortable. I agree, Harold. I'm not putting all this on Tyra. I'm not going to put it all on Tyra. Because Kevin, Mock, you said some very ignorant shit, your damn self. But you a man. And I'm not saying that gives you a pass. But baby, you said some ignorant shit. Again, wrong. So then we have Tiffany season. We all know the memes that everybody has mocked. We were all rooting for you. Was that Tiffany? That was Tiffany, right? We were all rooting for you. And again, I remember Tiffany because I remember the season before Tiffany had made it, and then they got into that fight at the bar, and then Tiffany got sent home. Now, me personally, I felt then, and I still feel now, Tiffany wasn't wrong. Those people were being rude to them. Those people said some shit to them, and Tiffany was defending herself and actually, she was defending the other ladies, and I didn't feel like Tiffany should have been sent home, personally. I felt that way then, and I feel that way now. I don't feel like Tiffany did nothing wrong. Now, she did pour that drink on that lady, but that's not the point. They were minding their business, and them people were bothering them. Probably trying to get a moment. They saw the cameras following them. They saw all these young girls happy and excited because they just made it on America's Next Top Model, and they felt some kind of way, and they got up in the mix. Baby, they said that scene lasted way longer than what we saw, and way more was said. Baby, they said that J. Manuel said, baby, there was some nasty things said on both sides. They said that thing got nasty. Nasty. They said it got so nasty that as soon as Tiffany walked out, baby, they said they pulled Tyra off set. Production pulled Tyra ass off set to go talk to her. And they said that the next week when they came back for filming, the lawyers were there. Now, I don't know all that was said. And J. Manuel said he will never repeat everything that was said. He said he will never repeat everything that was said. But he said it got real nasty. Yeah, now Tiffany, now I'm going to read y'all what Tiffany said. Because Tiffany, I'm going to read y'all Tiffany said. Tiffany said, let me read it to y'all. Hold on, let me find it, child. This is what Tiffany said. And I quote, "Hold up at Tyra Banks," because this was on Instagram. "Let's keep it cute. You are one lying ass, tired ass bitch. You know how you treated me the whole time, off and on camera. You was a bully! Exclamation point, exclamation point. You treated me like shit and said the nastiest things about me and my son. This is not how the argument went, but y'all edited it to make it look like you cared. Also, fuck the shade room, fuck your weird ass fans, and fuck you, Tyra Banks. I bet you won't sit down with me face to face and talk about it. Also, fuck my family too. Y'all ain't never defend me. I got more money with helping more people than all or many of the top models. That's what the update y'all, and that's the update y'all give. Damn shame. It's giving y'all still hating on little old black ass me. Tyra, ho, just let it go. It's been over 20 years. Fuck. That's what Tiffany said. Baby, they said it was nasty. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to tell you why Tyra, and from what it looked like to me, this is my opinion. This wasn't said on the documentary. This is how I feel. What I felt like in that moment was that Tyra said, "How dare you not kiss my ass for trying to help your little poor black ass?" That's how I felt in the moment. And again, I watched it. I remember when it happened. And because Tiffany was rough around the edges, because Tiffany wasn't as polished, because y'all did bring Tiffany back after that season when she got kicked off. And you notice how Tyra said in the documentary, we mentored her. We brought her back after we mentored her. We brought her back after we helped her. We got her the help she needed. We did this. We did that. You notice how it was what they did for her? So then when you eliminated her and she wasn't crying and she didn't fall out and she didn't beg you, when she turned around and was like, "All right, y'all, well, shit just don't work out sometime. I catch y'all on the other side." When she was dapping up the other ladies and she had a smile on her face, that's what pissed you off, Tyra. Because you expected her to kiss your ass. You expected her to cry. You expected her to break down. She didn't give you the moment you wanted, whether it was for production or just for your own ego. She didn't give you what you were looking for. And as a result of you not getting what you were looking for, then you got pissed off. That's what because you called her back so you could yell at her. If you really felt some kind of way, you could have talked to her one-on-one. Because the other thing I didn't know was when they get eliminated, they didn't go home. When they got eliminated, they literally had to stay in a hotel room until the season was over before they went home. I didn't know that. So if you got eliminated first, your ass literally was living in a hotel room for the next 8-9 weeks. That's crazy as hell. Why they couldn't go home? I mean, I don't know if that's how all the shows do, but I did not know that. I did not know that until the documentary that they did not go home. So in my opinion, I felt that way 20 years ago, and I feel that way now. Tiffany didn't break down and give her that moment. And because of that, Tyra was pissed off, and Tyra was going to create a moment. And when Tiffany talked back to her and didn't just stand there and let her talk to her crazy, Tyra got angrier and angrier and angrier. Well, that's what they said. They said they kept it there for confidentiality, but damn, I didn't know that. So J Manuel, I had a love-hate relationship with J Manuel because sometimes I felt like he was a little slick at the mouth. But overall, I thought he was very talented and I loved him. But I definitely felt like he was real quick in the mouth. He was real slick. Slick tongue did. He was real slick with the mouth. Real slick, right? I don't know. I don't watch The Bachelor, Bachelorette, so maybe they do. Like I said, other competition shows might do the same thing. I just never knew that. I just never knew it. So he said after cycle 18, he was ready to go. He said he sort of started feeling more and more uncomfortable with more and more comfortable with what the direction the show was going. He said the photo shoots were making him more and more uncomfortable. He said you could see in the, in the mixed identity photo shoot, you could see that he was uncomfortable. And he said that he even kind of said, "You sure you want to do this?" And he said that he just felt like it was more for him to do. He said he just wanted to just do some other things in his career. He just wanted to kind of get into some other avenues, and he was ready to go. And he said that, he felt like he owed it to Tyra to tell her himself and not hear it from a lawyer or hear it through the grapevine. And so he said, while it was when they weren't filming, in between cycles, he sent her an email and basically, thank you for the opportunity. Thank you for everything. I really appreciate it. But, I think it's time for me to move on. And he said that she did not respond. And he said he went to St. Lucia, to kind of just get away. And he said she did not respond. And he said it was the longest 3 days of his life. And he said, I always thought he was Latina too. I didn't know he was South African. And he said that when he finally got a response from her, all she sent him back was, "I am disappointed." And he said from that point forward, their relationship was strictly professional. He said she would not speak to him. He said that the lawyers called him in and said, basically, can you please stay for one more cycle? Like, thank you for letting us know. We appreciate that's how you feel, but can you please sit down for one more cycle? And he said that the unwritten rule, not rule, but he said what wasn't being said was it was almost like they were threatening him. And he said being blackballed was a real thing. And so he came back because he said nobody threatened him outright, but the implication was there that if you don't do this, we're going to make it really hard for you to do something else. And so he agreed to come back, and he said Tyra would not speak to him. He said he tried to talk to her. She ignored him until the cameras were rolling. And then she acted like nothing was wrong. And he said, but his role had been diminished. He said he was no longer in charge. He was no longer a creative director. He was no longer in charge of creating segments. He simply was just on-screen talent. They pulled him in to film a scene, and then they sent him back. Hold on. And then he kept coming back. So I don't know what the incentive was. I don't know if they offered him more money. I don't know. He didn't really get into that because that one season turned into like a few more seasons. I don't remember how many more, but it turned into a few more seasons. Actually, no. I think he said cycle 12 was when he wanted to leave, and they fired him cycle 18, I think is what it was. But he definitely did more than one more cycle. I think it was cycle 12 or cycle 10 to cycle 18. And when the producers asked Tyra, do you want to talk about Jay? And she was like, nah, I think I should call him. Girl, you've had 20 years to call him. What you gonna call him about now? Like, you had 20 years to call that man. And I feel like the only reason why you even said that is because y'all are filming this documentary, and maybe you're nervous about what he's going to say. So maybe you feel like maybe I should call him, but I don't think you did. Just like when we found out about Miss J Alexander, come to find out he had a stroke and he could not walk or talk, and they said he's taking steps now. They said since the documentary has been filmed, he can stand up and he can take steps. He's not fully walking, but he can take steps now. But at the time of the documentary, he could talk, but when he first had his stroke, he said he had the stroke. They said he was in a coma for like 5 weeks. And then when he woke up, of course, he said he didn't know where he was. He didn't know anything and he couldn't talk. So he got the ability to talk back, which is a great thing. And they said he's now taking steps. He's walking. He's taking some steps. But they asked him, did Tyra come and visit you? Now, he said that Jay Manuel and Nigel came to the hospital to see him, whether he wanted them to come or not. They came. He was like, no. And he even said, well, she recently texted me and said that she wanted to come visit. Madison says she saw him in New York City and he was acting during the documentary. What do you mean he was acting? I don't know what that means. Well, first of all, who's the who? Who's the he? And what do you mean by acting? The fact that you did not text that man until the show was over. I mean, until you're doing this documentary. And then again, I feel like you only did it because you knew the documentary was coming. Because if you wanted to see him, you could have seen, just like everybody else, you could have went to see him. You could have called him. You could have reached out. And so anyway, so fast forward, Jay wanted to leave the show. Y'all wouldn't let him. And then fast forward to cycle 18. There's a new head of the network. And basically he says, listen, the ratings are dropping. We need to switch things up and we're going to fire. We need to get rid of the Jays and we need to get rid of Nigel. According to Tyra, that came from above her head. She said, listen, even a boss has a boss. It wasn't my call. It was his call. And that's what happened. Here's what I'm going to say. That's when I stopped watching the show. My last season was their last season because I felt like the way, not just the fact that y'all fired them, but the way it was done, I felt was messy. I felt like they deserved better than the way it happened. And I just thought it was very messy. And when you see it play out in the documentary, it was just as I thought it was. He said that basically, Jay Emanuel said that they were told, the show is moving in a different direction, yada, yada, yada. But we will allow you to make your own announcement because most people, new head of UPN, not new head of CBS, new head of UPN. He said that, most people they're allowed to say, I'm moving on. I've decided, I want to move on. A lot of people get fired and you don't know they really got fired because they allow them to make it look like they quit. And that is what they were told they were going to be able to do. Nigel, Jay Alexander, and Jay Manuel were told that they would be allowed to say, look, we've just decided we're ready to do some other things. We've been here since the beginning. We're just ready to do some different things. Now, most of us would connect the dots and be like, all three of y'all leaving at the same time. Most of us is. Most of us would have been like, all three of y'all leaving at the same time. But it's just the fact that y'all didn't give them that dignity. And you leaked it to page 6 that they were being fired. And I agree with Jay Emanuel. Child, wasn't nothing leaked to no page 6. It wasn't leaked. You leaked it. You put it out there. It wasn't leaked to page 6 that y'all were quitting. I mean, you know what I mean? I mean that y'all got fired. And then the ratings kept dropping. Miss J. Alexander said that Tyra Banks sent him flowers the week before she fired him for his birthday. And then he got fired the next week. Anyway. And eventually Tyra Banks got fired and got replaced on her own damn show. So this is what I'm going to say. I mean, Tyra could have, I mean, at the end of the day, she could have fought. But it sounds like if she had fought, she'd have got fired. I mean, they didn't have no problem firing her 3 years later. 3 or 4 years later. They didn't have no problem firing her. So I think at the end of the day, the show was at the end of its popularity. It was at the end. I mean, they were grasping at straws. They were bringing on men. They were bringing on, you know, they were doing all of the things. They were pulling all of the tricks out to hold on. And it just wasn't, it was just gone. Like at the end of the day, what goes up must come down. You know, people were moving on. People's tastes were moving on. Other shows were coming along. It just was what it was. Then they started getting into the people on the other end. Danielle told her story, and Danielle talked about after she won how she couldn't book any shows, how she signed on with the modeling agency and how they wouldn't send her on any shows. They wouldn't send her on any go-sees. They wouldn't book her for anything. And basically, they said, look, you know, she won America's Next Top Model. We got to treat her differently. And like, it kind of goes back to what we already talked about, that the people weren't always, reality stars weren't revered the way they are today. Like, you couldn't take a reality show and parlay it into what people can parlay it into now. And there was a stigma behind being a reality show, a reality star. But when Danielle talked about how she talked to Tyra, and later on, Tyra told her point blank, I knew there were certain doors that you couldn't get into because of Top Model. I knew that there were going to be doors closed to you because of Top Model. And I never did anything to help you. And again, somebody might say, well, what was Tyra supposed to do? Again, you're Tyra fucking Banks. You can pick up a phone and say, hey, you can call it a favor. You have some of the top designers in your fucking Rolodex. Victoria's Secrets, Versace, Armani, Dior. You walked for all of these houses. You couldn't get that girl one job? And I understand, y'all, before y'all say it, I know every winner ain't, you know, I get it. She can't pick up the phone for every single person, you know, for every single person that won the show. I get it. But for her to come back to Danielle and tell Danielle, hey, I knew you couldn't work and I didn't do anything to help you. That has got to be a fucked up conversation to have with somebody. To let them tell you to your face, I could have helped you. I didn't. When they asked her about Shandi, and Tyra act like she barely even knew who Shandi was. How you forget Shandi? I remembered Shandi. That was 20 years ago. How did you forget that story? Because let's be clear, you knew more about what happened than we know. You knew more about what happened in that loft with that in Milan than we will ever know. How you forget her? Yes, there are some great success stories that came out of Top Model. Abso-fucking-lutely. And we can name them off. Boom, 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 boom. But that doesn't negate that y'all did some fucked up shit to these girls. Y'all caused some damage. And again, hindsight is 2020. But here's where we also know that Tyra Banks will do anything for her ratings and for her show, because years later, when you had the Tyra Banks show, you had a top model reunion of sorts, and you invited Shandi on the show. And Shandi told you she had never watched that episode because she just could not bring herself to do it. And Shandi said she told you, please don't play it. I don't want to see it. I've never been able to watch it. And you purposely played it after you asked Shandi about it. You said you've never watched it. Well, we're going to play a clip. And you play the clip, and Shandi closes her eyes, and you still say to her, you didn't watch it. Why? Which tells me, Tyra, you were still on that bullshit. You were still on that bullshit. When Tyra said, yeah, I know we did some crazy things, but it's what y'all wanted. Y'all wanted it. Y'all kept asking for it. Y'all wanted more. Y'all wanted this. Oh, so it's our fault? My biggest issue with everything I learned in this documentary is that I feel like the two biggest what's the word I'm looking for? The two biggest violators, which would be Tyra Banks and Ken Mock, seem to be the only ones that had no remorse. I didn't hear any accountability. I didn't hear any remorse. I didn't hear any I'm sorries, any sincere I'm sorries from either one of them. And Ken Mock was even worse than Tyra, in my opinion. But in the whole time, I mean, I give both of them credit for participating, but like they don't even have that 2026 lens to say, yeah, we did some fucked up shit. Yeah, Nigel, I already talked about Nigel. I already called him down to the front. I just feel like it just, again, a lot of it I saw right through Tyra. Number one, I just didn't feel any regret, any hindsight, any, but you not calling Jay Emanuel for 20 years and then saying, maybe I need to call him. Girl, you had 20 years, which tells me you don't want to call him, you don't care, and you have no remorse. Same thing with Jay Alexander. I mean, Jay Alexander. Nothing. No phone call, no nothing. No remorse. Don't care. Casualty of war. Oh well. But what really, 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 truly made me feel like you still don't get it is when you said, y'all need to wait and see what we have in store for cycle 25. Cycle 25 of what, ma'am? So you think that it's time to, in light of all of this, you think it's time to bring the show back? You think the show needs to come back? Again, because I don't hear any growth, because I don't hear we need to do things differently, because even if she had said, I still believe in my original concept, and because the modeling industry has changed in so many ways, I definitely feel like my original vision would be so successful now, because we do have the Christian Sirianos who will hire plus size models, because Whitney Harlow is one of the top paid models in the industry today, because we have this, and that. But girl, you literally was just like, y'all wait for cycle 25. Now let's be clear. That don't mean it's going to be no cycle 25, but the fact that you have no accountability, but you ready to do it all over again. And who you going to do it with? Oh, people are absolutely going to sign up. I mean, hell, people sign up for baddies. I mean, people going to sign up, Not only if Tiffany's a child. Not shit we didn't ask for. Child. I know that was long-winded, child. I did not mean to sit here and talk for no 2 hours. But it was a lot to talk about. I mean, it was 3 episodes and it was a lot to talk about. Before I get out of here, don't forget we are cruising. If you don't know, or you haven't heard, baby, the tribe is going to do it again. We had so much fun. We're going to do it again. So it's Tribe Bowl 2.0. It is February 11th through the 15th of 2027. Those are the prices. That price is locked until March the 16th. If you are interested, a deposit is $200 to hold your room. The final payment doesn't have to be made until November the 28th. Interior rooms start at $892. That's for double occupancy. So if you have a roommate, cut that price in half. Ocean view, $1,008.86. Balcony, $1,386.00. Again, those are all double occupancy. Cut that price in half. If you got yourself a roommate. If you are interested, call that number, and the group number is 9923946. When you call that 800 number, hit option number 5. When they answer, tell them you want to go on the Tribe Bowl, and that is the number. Okay? Again, those are the prices until March the 16th. Somebody said, can I bring my baby? You can bring whoever you want to bring. They have it's not an adult cruise. So they're if you have children, bring your kids. I ain't saying you can't bring your babies. That's up to you, boo. The more the merrier, honey. We have married couples coming. We got single people coming. We got engaged people, dating people coming. It's very affordable, Kim. It's very affordable. Very affordable. Yeah. So, yeah. Join us. I'm going to put it back up on the screen. If you need to take a picture of it, go and take a picture. If you want to think about it, you have about 3 weeks before you have to make a decision. So, right there, we got, $200. $200 will hold your room. And if you get an interior room, hell, by the time you pay the deposit, you done damn near pay for the trip. So, look. Come on and join us. Also, if you have not voted, please make sure you vote. Voting is open for another couple of weeks. So vote. Yeah, they have day camp for the kids. You can put your kid in day camp so you can have fun during the day. They got a whole arcade. They have the swim area with the kids area for the swimming and all that stuff. Child, they got plenty of stuff for kids to do on this ship. Tyra wants to be sued if she does. Yeah, I think she would get sued these days. Sure would. Also, you can add. Also don't forget to get your raffle ticket if you want to enter the Black History Month contest. You have a couple of more weeks to buy you a raffle ticket. There's the link right there. The tickets are $10 each. It's a virtual ticket, so fill out that form. And then send me the money. Let me know how many tickets you want. The tickets are $10, 3 for $20, 10 for 80. So you got a couple of more weeks for that too. Okay. Now I'm gonna go over here and see what Fantasia's husband talking about. I don't know if we're gonna talk about it today or talk about it tomorrow. Cause did Fantasia go live yet? She said she was going live tonight. I don't know if she went live yet, but we gonna see. We'll wait and see if Fantasia go live, honey. Really be, if you book single occupancy, can you add someone later? Also, if something happens that you need to cancel, can you get a refund? So, number one, if you book single occupancy, can you add somebody later? Yes. I think you have to add them by November the 28th. Number two, yeah, I know her husband did a video, but she said she was going live. So I'm gonna wait and see if she still goes live or if that's gonna be what that's gonna be their response. Number two, yes, you can get your full deposit back or your full money back up until November the 28th. After November the 28th, if you got insurance, you can get a partial refund based on the circumstances. It depends on the situation. But yes, you can get a full refund up till November the 28th. After November the 28th, it gets a little tricky. But it depends on, you depends on what you got going on. But I think you would lose your deposit. You heard she went live? Damn, I missed it. All right, I have to find it. I'm sure somebody got it. All right, y'all. I'm about to get off of here though. Okay. All right. I will talk to y'all later. Peace.